Hi everybody, and welcome to this short introduction to the IMM Builder course, which is starting this Thursday the 30th of September. And this is a replacement really for the webinar that was due to take place last week on Thursday the 23rd. And in this video we're just going to take you through an introduction to the course, to the webinar series, and really what to expect. And also alongside this we've sent out a survey for you to complete to tell us a bit more about what you're looking to get from the course, a little bit more about yourselves as well. And so let's start on the top left here with just an introduction to myself first of all. So my name's Tom Keat. I run the training at In Focus. I've been working in the development sector for around 15 years now, and a big part of my role is been developing and running training courses, including the oversight of the IMM Builder course and all our e-learning courses really. I don't work on them alone. It's about 10 of us worked on IMM Builder, both the e-learning and the webinars. So I'm based in the UK. I'm based in Bath over in the southwest, and my experience, as I mentioned, is over 15 years, lots of different projects in about 40 different countries now, where I've lived, worked and volunteered or just worked with remotely. These are just some examples of all the various projects I've taken part in. So I use that experience both in the training delivery and also the training development, alongside a lot of best practice both from my colleagues at In Focus and in the wider world as well. And a few points about the webinar course coming up, and a few general principles that we follow. So we do really welcome questions. It's quite a small group, so we're really looking for that exchange of knowledge. We want to hear from your experience as well as imparting our own experiences. It's a great chance to dig that bit deeper into topics and have a good discussion as well. We start out using GoToWebinar that doesn't allow us to, or allow you as a group to come in on video, but I think likely as we go through the course we might switch to, I think I said GoToWebinar, I meant Zoom webinar, but we might switch to Zoom meeting, which is a bit more accessible and potentially brings you in on video as well. But in the end you choose how you engage in our course, so you can just sit and listen. I mean, we really do encourage to get engaged in some of the activities because it does help to generate that debate and that engagement, but you don't have to, and you can decide how, as we come to later, also how you use e-learning alongside the webinars. Also, that's the point too, that you can decide how much preparation or homework, if we call it homework, to do ahead of the webinars, or some people use webinars as an introduction, and then the e-learning to strengthen the knowledge from the webinars, which we'll come to a little bit later. And a little bit on terminology. So we use this acronym IMM, and this is means impact measurement and management. And so impact measurement is around how to effectively measure the positive social or environmental impact generated by a service or product. So this tends to be from a charity or a social enterprise, and we generally measure through monitoring and evaluation. We talk about research a little bit as well in our e-learning, distinguishing it from monitoring and evaluation. But in the end we want to manage our impact and then more effectively unlock the potential of measurement to increase positive impact. So a big part of our courses is also all about how to use impact measurement to drive learning, to take action, to drive fundraising. It's all about how you use your data that comes from impact measurement. And what we follow are 10 different steps, and they're based around a learning cycle. So I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see this a bit more clearly. And we start at the top and we look at who to involve in IMM and taking an ethical approach to IMM. Then we go down into defining and mapping out how services or products lead to social or environmental change. So that's through developing a theory of change and defining indicators, which are measures of what data you're going to, or identifying what data you're going to collect. We then look at how we're going to measure this in the red there. So we're looking at selecting data collection methods and software, we're looking at sampling, and then we're looking at how we develop and deploy our data collection tools to actually collect the data. Then in the green, we've got our data, we're then analysing it to generate learning, and then using that to drive fundraising, investment and communication. And all of this drives then in the yellow improving learning, or using learning to improve services or products. And that in itself drives this learning cycle, because then we can better define through that learning what we do and then go back through the cycle. So we work in this learning cycle because often data is used for accountability and reporting back to funders, but not always used for learning and for really driving change, which is what we're really looking to do and to support through this course. So we'll be referring back to this cycle a number of times throughout the webinars. And we have 3 different IMM courses available. So we have an introduction to impact measurement and management. We have then the foundation course. So the introduction is a pretty short intro, very useful to do ahead of Thursday if you get the chance, because it goes into the kind of terminology that we use, but it's pretty brief. Foundation is that bit more depth, around 4 to 5 hours of content, but you could zoom through it a lot more quickly. And then IMM Builder, which is the course that you're on, this has an e-learning component as well, which is around 10 hours, again, if you're taking your time to go through it. But you've got this option to join also these webinars, which strengthen hopefully the learning from the e-learning course as we go through. It gives you a chance to ask questions as well and to go into that bit more depth. And the focus of the Builder course as well is to help you to develop your own tools and processes to conduct IMM, whether you're a consultant or you are leading in your organisation on impact measurement and management. We're hoping to get across some good tips and tools and templates that are more practically used. So we relate it to the drawing you can see there. So it's like it's giving you the blueprint in effect, and then the tools to address that blueprint and actually improve your IMM. Whereas introduction and foundation are more around introducing the topic and getting you used to the terminology. And finally, we look at how the e-learning and webinars interact. So we're going to go through the webinars in a moment, but there were 7, there are now 6 because this is replacing the first one. And so we have our e-learning, and then that is supported by these webinars. So as I said a bit earlier, different people coming on these courses have used the e-learning and webinars in different ways. So some will do the e-learning first and then come on the webinars to apply that learning, whereas others will do the webinars first and then go into the e-learning. So it does vary as to how people use the courses, and it's completely up to you. And some just do the webinars and they don't do the e-learning, so that's an option as well. And what we also have alongside the webinars are presentations that you can use yourself. You're not able to use them commercially, but you can certainly use them internally. So there's a number of resources that we're going to go through on these webinars that you then have access to afterwards. And then we have a variety of templates as well that you can take away and use. And so let's now come to what the course will cover. So we've got our webinars that are going to run along the top of the screen, and then our e-learning modules underneath, just so you can see how the course interacts. It's a pretty comprehensive course. It took us around a year to build it, and it was, as I said, it was a team of around 10, including designers and cartoonists and voiceover artists, alongside experts in IMM. So it's a pretty comprehensive process to pull it together. And if we look at the now 6 webinars, so this week on Thursday we're going to look at an introduction to participatory IMM and to ethics. Ethics is probably my favourite topic. And then we have a number of e-learning modules as well. So alongside this we've got how to take that more participatory approach to IMM, so who to involve, what are the benefits and challenges of involving stakeholders in IMM, and then steps you can take to take that more participatory approach. And then in relation to ethics, we look at some different ethical principles for IMM, and then also practical steps to address ethics in IMM. We look at then some more advanced topics in e-learning on ethical advisory boards, and then also what steps can be taken to protect data. So we get a little bit into data protection there as well. And in the second webinar, now this webinar we've actually opened up a bit further to our what we call our impact community. So it's going to actually suddenly be a much bigger webinar in terms of participants, about 50 on that instead of around 10 that are attending week by week on the other webinars. But it does give a different flavour to it, should be quite interesting as well. But we normally on every run we open up one webinar to be more public, or to invite more people onto it. And then, as with the other webinars, you've got supporting e-learning modules here too. This module 3 and theory of change, one of the biggest modules we have, that looks step by step at how to develop a theory of change, and it's really almost a facilitation, an online facilitation manual in effect. And then we get into indicators, which is one of our most practical courses as well, and we've been developing indicators for many years, and it's a refinement of our process there. Again, very practically focused on how you can pull together what we call an indicator framework. Then we come to our third webinar in the series, which is all about choosing data collection methods, and a little bit on software, although we don't cover that as much in the webinar. And we also look at a basic introduction to sampling, which is quite a complex topic, but we go into that with some exercises as well, and try to explain that as simply as we can. And this is also, as with every other webinar, supported by 2 e-learning modules. The first on selecting data collection methods, which is going into the different data collection methods you could choose, whether that be more standard or more creative, how to take a mixed method approach combining qualitative and quantitative data collection, and also into the selection of software, again a little bit more lightly than the selection of methods more generally, and then into how to get the right sampling, so how to get the right sample size using sample size calculators, also how to ensure that you get the most representative sample possible by looking at different sampling types as well. And then we come into our fourth webinar, which is all about developing and deploying data collection tools. So here we've got e-learning modules that support, so firstly developing data collection tools. So we really focus here on question-based tools. So this would be surveys and forms and focus groups and interviews, which are some of the most common data collection tools you might use. So we look a little bit at bias, and then we're into how to develop these different question-based tools, and the type of questions you can use, developing your own questions versus using existing questions, and how to bring it all together into a framework. And then the other e-learning module here is then how to deploy tools, so the importance of training up and helping your data collectors to go out and collect the data both ethically and collecting good quality data. We then look at analysis, so we have a module on conducting quantitative and qualitative analysis, how to prepare for it, considerations when selecting software, the key steps to take to analyse quantitative data, the difference between qualitative and quantitative approaches, and then some steps you can take to conduct analysis. And finally, in our final webinar in the series, we look at how to communicate your impact and use learning to drive performance, and what the blocks and barriers might be to that. And here we've got a module on communicating your impact. It's telling a story focused around writing reports. And finally, how to use your learning to drive performance. So what are the characteristics of a learning organisation, how to turn learning into action, around using dashboards for learning as well, and a bit more about change management too. And so that's what the course will cover, and that actually also concludes our short video introduction to the IMM Builder course here as well. So I hope that was useful, and really looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. This will go out in an email with my details if you have any further questions, and please do complete the survey as well so we can get a bit more information about what you're looking for from the course, and hopefully share details amongst the group of who's participating in the training.